Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from the Am I Wrong subreddit from MotorOdd7435 and says, am I wrong for being uncomfortable with my wife being friends with her friend after something she accused me of? My wife and I have this mutual friend, ex-friend for me, let's call her Kate, who we both knew independently and introduced us. Over the years, Kate and I drifted apart, but still talked frequently. She's always been more of my wife's friend than me, best friend from childhood, etc. So it's never really bothered me. A few years ago, someone tangentially part of our friend group that I only semi-knew confided in Kate that I solicited her for nudes. This person I only talked to maybe once or twice, and it was only ever about her art. Although it's worth mentioning, she has a good side hustle drawing hentai. All I ever really said was she was talented at it and I liked her art. I guess one of the pieces I particularly liked was a self-portrait. I won't get into the details, but it looked nothing like her and was an anime girl. So I'm not sure how I would know that. Kate told my wife about this, who spent a week being upset about it before telling me. I showed her the chats we had and that was the end of it. Edit. I'll add what I said about the self-portrait was something along the lines of, holy shit, this one's perfect. The lighting and the figure are really hot. You should be doing this as a day job. She apparently only mentioned it in passing to Kate as interesting. Her words apparently. Kate took it upon herself to tell my wife about it. When my wife confronted the friend, she didn't think I was trying to get nudes or anything, but thought I knew it was a self-portrait. A few months later, Kate decided to take it upon herself to then tell wife I asked to see pictures of her feet. Admittedly, I have a foot fetish, something my wife divulged to her, which I'm not particularly cool with, but I'm not super ashamed of it or anything, so I don't care all that much. The conversation Kate, in my opinion, misconstrued was her venting about how frustrating and objectifying it is that she feels like every guy wants to see her naked, and all I did was sympathize with that and said something along the lines of, yeah, I mean, I'll admit there's a split-second intrusive thought about that I'll get when I meet people, but it's probably some caveman lizard brain shit. When my wife brought it up, I again showed her the messages, and she agreed it was a misunderstanding. Although when she brought it back to Kate, trying to mediate the situation rather than defending it as a misunderstanding, Kate was adamant I was subtly fishing for nudes and feet pics. Wife didn't ask for this, but I let her go through all the messages again and my phone and computer, and she found nothing. Kate decided to cut contact with me, and I haven't heard from her since. Edit. I commented this below, but here's the exact conversation I had with Kate. Kate said, I'm just so sick of it. Like one of the guys from work I told you about, the mentor guy. He offers to take me to a place he knows to find something to wear to the presentation we're giving next week. So I go with him and we're looking and he keeps joking that we should look at lingerie. Like, huh? What is it with men? Like, is it all, oh, woman must see their boobs? OP replied, what the fuck, lol? Is that the dude who offered to pay for the extra e-learning shit? Kate replied, yes. I thought he was genuinely being nice, but I guess not. Yet another in a long line of men who just want to see me naked. Is it all men? Like, I don't get it. It's so fucking exhausting. OP replied saying, I mean, I've had the passing, huh, she's attractive, I wonder what she looks like underneath her clothes, but they're more intrusive thoughts than anything I'd ever actively pursue because I'm not a monster. Kate replied, exactly. I have some thoughts too sometimes, but it's like, I don't go around asking to see every hot guy's dick. OP replies, maybe that's what he's hoping for, with laughing emojis, and Kate replies, he has a wife too, so it's like, with question marks. OP continues, I see Kate from time to time. Wife will have her over and they'll be talking on Discord. I'll be polite and say hello, but she'll turn her back from me or very blatantly ignore me, which is fine. If that's what she wants to do, then so be it. But there was one time that particularly pissed me off. They were sitting out back and had to come through to bring in groceries and put some stuff away in our shed. She had sandals on, and when she saw me, she asked my wife if she could borrow a pair of socks, which my wife obliged. Putting it bluntly, I'm uncomfortable with her being friends with Kate. My wife doesn't have many friends though, as she suffers from some pretty bad mental health issues and doesn't get out much. And I don't want to be some controlling arsehole telling her who she can and can't be friends with. I just hate the feeling I have to be on guard when she's around, and I particularly hate that my wife, who agreed it was a misunderstanding on Kate's part and probably poor wording on mine, didn't defend me. I haven't told her to stop being friends with Kate, but I have mentioned that maybe she shouldn't invite Kate around if I'm home. Or if we're going somewhere and Kate is there, I'll stay home. Wife says I'm just making the situation more awkward and making things uncomfortable for her, being that she's her best friend and I'm her husband. For context, sometime before this, I have a friend who expressed concern that my wife might be telling me she didn't want me to go out and see my friends anymore. This one me, as the relationship was new, I had a new job and wasn't really fond of going out to bars anymore and never communicated this. He was particularly disrespectful about it and I cut him off without question. I don't expect her to cut her off, but I would at minimum appreciate her telling Kate off when she does particularly disrespectful things. Am I wrong here? Now, was it me in that text conversation that was between Kate? It just felt like she was almost baiting OP. And I'm not saying she didn't go through that experience because, you know, there's every chance she might have, but just the way the situation read, it felt like that she was trying to bait him with the context with everything else. And I totally understand why OP's getting pissed off. I mean, for one, that she's sharing your private information, you know, stuff that should be between you, to her as well. And Kate's using this against you. She's already made like false accusations before, but your wife continues to like trust her at your expense. It's just not on, in my opinion. But the first commenter says, we also have to add, it's his wife's fault for telling Kate he has a foot fetish. Like, why would you tell about your significant other's kinks, sexual likes and stuff? That's such weird behavior. MelW14 says, anyone commenting needs to look at the text chain that OP posted with Kate. Kate is absolutely the problem here, and she's the type of girl that all other girls hate. The MCP says, I personally would tell wife. Kate has made false accusations about me several times in the past and refused to even apologize when proven wrong. I am very uncomfortable with her ever being in my home because I can't trust her not to go through my private things or use the fact to make new false accusations about me. This thing about her borrowing a pair of socks is proof that she has no way improved and has learned nothing and is not contrite about her behavior. I do not want her in my home anymore. And then quotes and says, wife says I'm just making the situation more awkward and making things uncomfortable for her, being that she's her best friend and I'm her husband. And then continues, I'm not the one creating the discomfort. I'm not the one who made false accusations about the other. I'm not the one who never apologized for it. I am the victim here. I'm your husband. She isn't the person you married. I've discarded friends when they have said negative things about you because I value you as my spouse over them. You really wish to choose her over me, as you have done so far by offensively searching my phone, my computer and my email because of her taking her accusations over my word. And one more comment as I found it interesting, there was a good take in this one. Zake Turek says, don't ever interact with your wife's friend when she isn't present in the conversation. It's just a best practice. There are always going to be drama addicts who will take or make every opportunity possible to ruin someone's marriage. Sounds like your wife isn't buying what she's selling, which is great, but she's already got an in to make the drama now. Perfect example in quotes. They were sitting out back and I'd come through to bring in groceries and put some stuff away in our shed. She had sandals on and when she saw me, she asked my wife if she could borrow a pair of socks, which my wife obliged. Then says, she came to your house with bare feet to make a scene like this on purpose. If it actually bothered her this much, she'd always have socks or closed-toe shoes on at any time there was a chance of running into you. It's not fair to your wife to ask her to completely cut ties with Kate, but it would be fair to ask that a drama-stirring homewrecker not be invited into your home anymore. And again, seriously, in the future, never talk to any of your wife's female friends when she isn't present. No texts, no calls, no emails, nothing. This kind of person thrives on people who stupidly make this mistake. And what I found interesting about that comment is her turning up with sandals on, basically. But Miller Latte replied to that one saying, I'm sorry, but this is horrible advice. It's absolutely fair to ask your wife to cut out Kate. She's actively and intentionally undermining their marriage. If he's not doing anything wrong, why should he have to go through the lengths of not communicating with any friend if the wife isn't there? That's outrageous. He needs to spend his life walking on eggshells because his wife has a delusional, meddling friend. Fuck that. He should be able to live his life like any other normal person. Not conform it to this insane friend's false narratives. That's basically enabling her behavior. Get it together. But OP did end up updating the post and said, so I ended up showing my wife the original post because we had another argument about Kate. She read through it and some of the comments. I think she had a bit of a coming to Jesus moment as she came and sat down and agreed that Kate has been acting weird about this whole situation. We talked it out and I admitted I wasn't comfortable with Kate anymore and wouldn't stand in the way of them being friends, but I don't want her coming around the house anymore. So she agreed she would, 1, not bring Kate here anymore, and 2, have a talk with Kate about what her problem is. Over the long weekend, we decided to forego our usual tradition of going to one of our parents for a big meal and just stayed in and ordered takeout. Wife and Kate made plans to hang out too, which was fine as I had some personal hobby stuff I wanted to log some time on. Kate apparently did not take being told she can't come over when I'm home very well, because she sent me a long message how I'm controlling and abusive. Wife snapped and called her. They argued on the phone for a while. I didn't listen in or anything, but wife told me that she set Kate straight and basically told her she needs to cut the shit and apologize to me or she'll cut out Kate. After midnight on Sunday, I got my apology from Kate. It seemed pretty heartfelt and sincere, but I just said thank you for the apology. Please understand I'm fine with you and wife being friends, but I would prefer to continue just being pleasant with each other. She didn't respond right away and I went to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to pee and saw she'd responded. And this is where it got a bit odd. She sent a photo of her legs with her feet in the frame, in front of the mirror, so I was sure to see all of her feet. It seemed intentional to me, honestly. One foot had a heel on and the other was bare. She accompanied this with a message. What do you think? Yes/no. I woke up my wife to show her because I didn't want this to be blown out of context by her. Wife took a minute to comprehend what was happening and concluded she probably meant to send that to her, since they got each other's opinions on outfits and shoes. Bit weird to do at 1 AM in my opinion, but made sense. I replied, sorry, did you mean to send that to me? In the morning. She had unsent the photo and message and said nothing else. Later in the day, she called my wife and said that she accidentally sent me a picture of her new shoes and her feet were in them, and wanted my wife to confirm I didn't save it to use later. I think this is where my wife started piecing together what some of the comments were saying about Kate being a shit stirrer, put the phone on speaker and flat out asked if Kate did it on purpose. Kate got angry and asked how my wife could think that. Wife just said, because you know he has a foot fetish, and sent him a foot guy's equivalent of a full body nude. She started demanding she check my phone because she was having a panic attack over the thought of me jerking off to her feet. My wife rarely gets angry or petty. It's just not who she is, but my wife basically replied to that with, Kate, you should have said something sooner. I thought it was an apology photo for him, so I can't say that bit, but sorted him out while he looked at it. There was a huge hours-long argument that followed, but TLDR, Kate is no more. Apparently their friend group has wanted to stop dealing with her bullshit for some time, and all jumped on this to cut her out. Sayonara, Kate, you fucking drama queen. Some people just love being a part of the drama, don't they? You know, I like drama. I like listening to drama, always considering, you know, this is someone's life, someone's going through this at the same time. But I just enjoy all the little different stories going on all over the world right now. But who wants to be in it? Holy moly. Anyway, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And now we're going to stroll on over to the, join me. We're going to stroll on over to the Petty Revenge subreddit from John Vox, who says, person next to me on a plane kept violating my personal space. I say I do enjoy a bit of plane drama every once in a while. I was flying in the window seat because I like looking out the window. The woman sitting next to me reached in front of me multiple times to close the window shade. She never asked me, just reached directly in front of me to close the shade. I would immediately reopen it, and a few minutes later, she'd reach in front of me again to close it. It was a noon domestic short-haul flight, so no reason to need darkness in the middle of the day. And absolutely no excuse for violating my personal space multiple times without asking me or acknowledging me or treating me like a human in any way. So I pulled out my book and turned on the reading light, despite there being ample natural light from the open window for me to read. I then positioned my hand in such a way that my watch would reflect the reading light directly into her eyes. I read like that for an hour, jiggling my hand the entire time, so it would shine the light back and forth across her eyes and be super distracting and annoying. Once we landed, she took her headphones off. I turned to her and said, "Next time you fly, book a window seat if you want to control the window, or at least treat me like a human and ask me before you violate my personal space. What you did is unbelievably rude." She looked so offended, and naturally she walked 2 miles per hour. Being a city walker, I easily got in front of her. Then once we're on the moving walkway, I stopped immediately in front of her. The same on the escalator to the curb, before flipping her off the entire way to my ride. Edit. Wanted to make a slight clarification that I was subtly flipping her off by extending my middle finger by holding the handle of my bag. So it was upside down, and you only would have noticed if you were looking at my hand. It's not like I was just holding up my finger to her face. I was angry, and it was a subtle way for me to voice my anger and get it out of my system. Reminds me of those ways like when you get told off when you're younger and you like stick the V sign on your cheek when you pretend you're scratching your cheek. Like they probably never notice it, but to yourself you're like, yeah, fuck you. I never understand people like that, you know. Instead of just doing the human thing, turning across to the person sat next to the window and saying, "Excuse me, do you mind if we just shut the window?" And then give your reason for it. Just reaching across to someone and shutting it. It's just bizarre ass behavior to me. It's like, why would you do that? The watch tactic was pretty spot on though. I like the way that it continued off the plane as well. She was walking 2 miles an hour. Opie kept stopping in front of her. But I'm also glad that Opie did call them out in the very end, saying what you did was unbelievably rude. I always prefer a call out like that to rather than swearing at them and you know, getting in their face or whatever. Just telling them, you know, that was absolutely disgusting what you did. It's like when someone tells you, "I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed." And that hurts so much more. But a couple of comments from this one. Someone said about how it's happened to them, and the Sanch says, "Me too. Back in my much younger and much more physically fit days, someone kept reaching across me to open the shade during an evening flight. He would open it, I would close it, rinse and repeat. On the 4th attempt, I grabbed his scrawny arm and said one word, 'Don't.' Surprisingly, he didn't. One of the rare times I've intimidated someone physically." Phil Andrew says, "I sat next to a woman in the middle seat a few months ago, me in the middle, her in the window, and she had sparkly stuff on her sweater and kept the shade up the whole time. When she bent over to get something out of the seat pocket, our entire section of the plane looked like it was lit up by a disco ball. It was quite a trick to film that without her noticing. It was a fun flight." And one final comment says, "My daughter was in the window and the guy next to her in the middle seat did that. When I walked by, I noticed the shade closed and her looking miserable. Knowing that, like me as a nervous flyer, the window provides me with some comfort. I asked her why she closed it. She just gave me a shrug. When I was in line for the bathroom, she told me what happened. I told her to open the shade back up and let me know if there were any issues. He tried to close it again, but she very politely told him she wants to keep it open. When we landed, we got off the plane. I told him that not only does he not have the right to close the shade, but how dare he invade a teenage girl's space and just take over. His wife looked mortified, and he was so stunned, he stood in silence for a minute before he started walking. Who do these people think they are?" I see a lot of these videos going around these days, and I can never quite work out if it's just rage bait or not, where people are hanging their hair over, like in front of the person in front of their TV screen. I'm like, oh, dear me, that gets me riled up, that does. But what do you guys make of this situation? Have you ever had your own little bit of plane drama? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. You are absolutely amazing. Never forget that. And I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.